Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be putting this beautiful, unique sewing machine back together. And I just have her set into her little base that's going to be going with her that my husband made. And no, he doesn't sell them. I'm so sorry. Only for my machines. But I'm going to take her out of that. I just wanted to make sure that the sizing was good. And this machine is very different from a lot of the standard Singer type ones. With the stitch length is very different and everything. So I hope you enjoy this. Let me get her all set up so I can start to put her together. Okay, so let me flip her this way so that I can see in here, okay? And I'm gonna coat everything in there. The metal is going to be riding up against with a very good oil. Okay, right out of there. So this is what we have here. They're a lot cleaner now. So we have this one with the little shaft sticking out. This one goes on it like that, and then this little spacer type thing is going to go on here. And I want to make sure all of the screws are pointing outwards here, and slide this whole thing in like that. Okay, now while I hold it, let's see if I can do this on the camera. I've got my clean pivot point and nut, and that's going to come in from this outside over here, and I'm just going to get it started so it just barely makes contact over here inside where it needs to, which is right there. Okay, so while that's in place, this one gets screwed all the way in. All right, so that's how, oops, you know what, I left a plug in there. Hang on a sec. Silly me, silly me. Okay, I plug up my holes when I'm painting and I left that in there. All right, so what I was doing, let's do that again. Okay, get this in and center it up with where it needs to be. Okay, I'm gonna need to go get a big screwdriver to get those cinched in. Okay, so with this side screwed in all the way, then I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up until it touches, and then back it off just a hair. So, well, that's as tight as it'll go. Let's see if it will still turn easily. Fairly easily. And back this up just a hair and tighten up this nut, which I need a larger wrench for. Thinking it was 3/4. I think it was 3/4, was it? Make sure that these are lining up here where they need to be and everything's turning well. Okay, so now this little bearing spacer there, I want to place it so that it's not binding up over here, but it's going to keep these in place. You can see when I push it over, it moves those slightly. I'm just going to place it so that they are fairly centered, and get a narrower screwdriver, come in here and get that tightened up. These should still be tight from when I cleaned them, but there we go. Okay, is everything spinning well? Yes, it is. How about down here in the bottom? Are they wiggling? Yes, they are. So that is great. You're going to see a lot of dirty fingerprints. It will clean off. Don't worry about that. Okay, now with the understanding that I do not know the actual names of these pieces, we're going to do the best we can. So one of these has a knob at the end, one has a little flat part with a hole. Okay, I'm going to be screwing this piece, try to raise it up a bit, in here. This is what the stitch length, too fat, what the stitch length little bird head thing is going to be attached to. Again, bird head is probably not the correct word. Okay, so a little extra oil around there too. All right, that's very tight, and this is still moving freely. Okay, so here's my bird head. That's what it looks like to me, a freshly hatched chicken. What I'm going to need to do is this slot here is going to travel on there, so I'm going to throw some more very good oil. And this was covered in a really strange white grease. Don't even know what that was. Okay, the bird is eating that little slot. And this end here, that's what the stitch length is going to be up against. I'm just going to set that up there. There's a hole here that I have this screw that needs to go through here and into this hole in the casting. Okay, so it is in. Well, no, it's not quite. Hang on, I thought it was, but it doesn't look like it, does it? There's a space there. I'm wondering, I've got some extra washers. I wonder if there is a washer behind that. Let me go check. Go back and check my video, and I am missing a piece. This little bearing here, right there, that's what I need to put on. So when it doesn't fit right, I need to double check. Okay, so if this bearing piece is going right up against the casting over here, slide all of that back in, and now twist it. Oh yeah, that's going to fit a lot better right there. It's going to keep things lined up much better. And make sure this little bird eye is centered so that it's not going to get bound up there. I'm doing this from a very strange angle. Okay, that is tight, moving well. Up here, I have some pieces that need to go in. This is how you change the stitch length. Oh no! When I pulled that off, I took the beak off of that little bearing. I don't think I can slide it back in, so I'm going to need to take that off, put this little bearing thing inside that beak, and then put it back together one more time. Alright, so with that done, I need to get this little plate put on here before I put the little stitch length knob on. I try to do this with the machine still sideways. Try is the word here. So let me get the screw started. There's one, and there's the other one. Okay, let me get those tightened up. All right, so now that is sliding back and forth in there really well. We have a little pointer piece, which is going to slide over here, and it matches up with these little lines there, so that's good. And then I have a washer that went on top of that piece. Okay, just trying to pull it out there, and then I have my little knob that goes on top of it all. don't remember why that washer is there, but it was there. Okay, so right now I have it tightened all the way so it's holding its place. If I loosen it just a hair, then I can move it, okay? So I am going to, all the way forward, this washer still confuses me because it doesn't fit on the back. I can't put it on the back, it doesn't fit back there. I'm going to go take a look at my video just to make sure that it came off the front. Well, I just checked, and yes, that washer was in that position when I took it apart. It might have been added later, I'm thinking, but at this point it works well to help you cinch it down, so I am going to leave that. So now that that is here, let's see if I turn. Am I still moving freely? Yeah, pretty much. If I put the wheel on, I could turn it a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and throw some more good oil in here. Okay. And I think that's good. Alrighty. Alright, so let's see. I need to get this next piece oiled up inside the holes for the pivot points and such, inside those threaded pieces. Okay, so this, you know, I have my bird beak going this way. This is a beak going up. It's still riding on that same bearing here. Okay, like that. And in the front of the machine is this pivot point that has a little head on it over here, in case you didn't know. And I'm just going to screw that in all the way. Okay, so that one is screwed in all the way. Now down here there is another pivot point, like Singer type, that has the screw separate from the nut. And let's see what happens here. Okay, so this one, if I screw it in all the way, it's right there. I'm going to back it up a bit so it's not bound up. If I turn the wheel, how is it working? It looks like it's centered on that bearing pretty well, so I'm okay with that. I'm going to go ahead and get this little nut put back on there, if I can, without turning everything. I need to hold this, okay, back, and then turn the nut, which is not threading easily. I need to go get a wrench, but basically if I hold the screw part with my screwdriver so it doesn't want to turn in, I should be good. Okay, so turning it seems to be turning well, so that is good. Alrighty. Okay, so I have been gone. I met a friend for lunch and stuff, and I just got back. So the next thing we're going to do, oh, and I have a different shirt on, so no more of those wing things to get in my way here, so that's good. Next thing I'm going to do is get this on. But if you can see, this part, putting my glove on, I need to put the little shuttle carrier there. Okay, so if that's facing upwards, let me go grab that. Hang on. Here is the little bracket here. Okay, so, it is inverted on both sides. So I'm guessing actually it must be this way because these are usually up on top like this. All right, so that, if you can see, it's like a conical shape on both sides here, okay? So let me go ahead and I'm going to get this screwed on. You can see there's a lot of slide there, so this is adjustable for later. And so this is on the bottom, so that's another telltale sign for me. The little adjuster screw is always on the bottom. So it's going to go on here like this. Now right here, you can see it's over this ball part. I've got these two little washers. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in here, and hopefully that oil will help hold those washers together. And I need to put this screw in. I'm trying to decide which way it went. I'm thinking it goes that way instead of that way. But if I put one of these washers here and one of these washers upside down up here, using that oil to stick them on, if I can slide them over here at the same time. Ah, they fell off. Darn it. Hang on a second. Let me get my act together. Okay, I think I've got it. So I had to pull this off so I could get it close enough. So I've got it on where that whole shaft is kind of tipped off. And then very carefully, I'm going to put it over here on. Don't fall off, you little washer. Oh my goodness. This is so frustrating. Usually these go on so super easy, and today is just not my day. But the idea is, around this ball, we've got these two washers that have a little curved surface. The flat part goes against here, the curved surface goes in the middle up against the ball. I'm just going to play with it. Once I get it on there, then this screw tightens it up to hold it together just enough that they won't come off. Okie doke, so now it's on. I have this tightened up, looking good. I have this little conical shaped nut right here that's going to go on. Okay, and I'm putting this little part up here on top because that has the place for this little screw to get put in to hold it in place. And right now, just up seems like the most helpful. I should use my screw starter instead of this, but you know, I'm not the brightest some days. Okay. All right, so that's on. Will it still turn easily? Yeah, it's making a little bit of noise there, but I think it's just because it's up on its side. I actually might pull this out a bit. Hang on, let me loosen this screw up a hair. Pull it out slightly. I feel like it was binding just a hair. Just a smidge. All right, that's much better. Yeah, this was pushing too hard up against this piece. So that is good. Okay. And this came with the machine. I think it is, oops, I think I have that upside down. Well, no, I'm going to leave it this way. This was for locking it into its original cabinet, and actually I think it normally goes the opposite way so that this sticks out. But because I'm putting it into a box, I'm pretty sure I have enough room between this edge and the box. If not, I'll just pull it off. But I went ahead and cleaned it anyway. Why not? All right, so I was just about to put on the big bar that goes over here, and it basically operates the feed dogs, and I realized this gets screwed on right here. Right there. But you know what I can't do? I can't put a screwdriver right there. So I'm actually going to have to take this screw off, pull this whole bar out a little bit so that I can connect this screw with a hole to this little piece back there. Alrighty, so let me tip you down here so you can see what I'm talking about. This is this screw, this shouldered screw that's going to go through there, and it needs to go on this way. Come on. There you go. Alright. Here we go. All right, nice and snug. Okay, so now I'm going to slide it back on down here. And this needs to sit in that pivot point over there. Over here, it pushes in that slot. Lower it enough that I can match up this pivot point down here. And again, this one should be screwed in all the way. And now that is in, so, you know. Now you know, if you're ever doing one, do that first. Okay. I think I just dropped a screw, which is bad. Hang on a second. Thankfully, it just rolled over and stuck underneath my little dish. So, this is a little shouldered screw with a washer, and over here is just another little shouldered screw. I'm going to tighten it up over here first. I don't know what that little scrap of something is. And okay, now over here there is a hole in the casting that I'm screwing this into. I want to make sure that that washer is on top of the shoulder so it doesn't bind too much. All right, is that loose enough that it can still turn? Yes. Yes, it is. Actually, that's turning really well. So yay, that is good. I am going to go ahead and throw a little bit more oil in that little slot, because why not? The feed dogs are going to press down in here, but before I do that, I want to get this spring put back in. And there's a hole in the casting that a screw is going to go through to hold this in. This little part here is going to be going through. There's a tiny little hole up here, okay, that you probably can't see in that little slotted part. Let's see if we can do this here. Put that little piece of the spring through there, and I believe it is this little part there. And I am going to grab my screw starter. Hopefully make my life easier here. Hang on a second. I might actually need to screw it into this one over here. I think I do. I think I'm screwing it into the totally round hole, which is why it's not working, you know. Sometimes I'm not the sharpest spoon in the drawer, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's try this again. That's probably the hole to screw the plate on. Yeah. Didn't have it on the wrong place, but I had it so it was pushed over that way too far. So like if I loosen this again, it was pushed way over there. If you can see it, that wire sticking out. So I pulled it back and tightened up that screw, and I think we're good now. So it's nice and level over there. Oh, hang on, I need to get you up here. So we've got a little clicky, but it's like this spring is pushing this flat bar here up against this one, and that's what the clickiness is. So I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. I think because of this design, that's just what it is. So that's good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and slide these feed dogs back in. I want to set this plate on here. Okay, lining up that screw hole so I can see how the feed dogs need to go. Okay, so I can see, based on that pattern, they need to go this way. Okay, So I could take this back off and slide them down. Okay. Coming over here, see you have that whole slot where there's a lot of adjustment places. I'm going to put the screw pretty much in the middle as a place to start. When I'm getting her all tuned up, I can adjust that, you know, later. But for right now, that's where she's going to be. Okay, and they're moving, so that's good. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the wheel on. If you remember, I almost did it backwards. The wheel goes so the belt is on the outside. Okay, so I have oiled that up. Make sure everything's spinning well, and it is. On this machine, there was this little bearing, and it has a little post in it, and I need to line that up with this slot right here. And then this has a set screw. I have it unscrewed. This is reverse thread, so it should be lefty tighty. Right there. And now I'm going to rotate it and go ahead and get this set screw turned in. I need to get a smaller screwdriver to get it in there the rest of the way. Okay, let's see how this works. Right now, shuttle is moving. Actually, I think it might go this way. Okay, if I loosen it by turning it towards the back for making my bobbin wind, that is not moving now. So tightening this is turning it towards you, and you kind of have to hold it here, turning it towards you. And now everything is back and working again. So that's a pretty cool little system there. I just realized, yeah, there's my little thing for the button for the bobbin winder. Let me get my next set of parts out. Okay, I think I'm going to get started up front here with the needle bar. So I'm just putting oil. I'll put oil on all of this stuff that's not painted here. Just painting it on with my little brush. Protect all of that stuff there. Okay, now I have a bearing. It's going to pop on here. Make sure it's going to fit well. It's not spinning super loose that way. I'm going to pull it off and flip it over and see if it works any better. Okay, before I put this piece on, it's got two screw positions, and these two screws, and they look exactly alike to me. So I'm thinking I can just place them on there. Okay, so before I screw that on though, I'm going to slide my needle bar down from the top here. Just kind of wiggle everything so it's going to fall into place there. Okay, so you can see there's two holes in the needle bar that I need to line up with these two positions here. Let's see if I can wiggle it in. Oops. Right there. Right there. Okay, so can you see? Well, you probably can't see, but those are lined up. I'm going to go ahead and put those two matching screws in. Okay, so that is on, and then down here at the bottom, I've got this needle clamp that has the little cool thread guide there, and a thumb started here. Thumb screw that's going to come in the back here. If I can get that tight enough. Okay, that is on now. Now, the question is, will it turn? Yes, everything is turning well. Great, let me get the presser bar. Okay, actually, before I do that, I don't want to lose this. I've got this little thread guide. It's going to go in over here. I think I have that correct. It might be upside down. I can flip it. If it's not, I will check in a moment. I just want to get this little set screw in there and locked in. Okay. You know, I'm thinking I do have it upside down. Loosen that, turn it like this. That way it matches the top one. And it's, that looks pretty good to me. All right, now if you saw this from the beginning, you know what a terrible time I had getting the screw out that was in the bottom. And I am really hoping that it's easier to put back in. So just to make sure, I'm going to try to go ahead. I'm pretty sure it's this one. I should double check. And get this screw started. Just to make sure my life will be easy. Because if this doesn't want to go in easily, my life will be difficult. Just going to tip her on her side. Come on. Not difficult, lemon, difficult. Okay, it is going on. So yay, that's good, because I need this to be able to screw in. So, since that is going to screw in well, I can go ahead and put this together. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. What I need to do is figure out if this is going to fit through the top. And it is. Okay, that's good. That was the spring, by the way. I need to pull this out, stick this piece in, and one side has a tiny hole in it and the other one doesn't. I need to go double check if it goes this way or that way. I'm thinking this way. It has to go with the little hole sticking out because that's where the clamp screw goes. So I am pushing this through that hole, making sure I can slide it up and down well, and I can, so that's good. Now, with the threaded part down, I'm going to slide this through that clamp, through the bottom, and just a little bit more. Okay, so now that I have that right there, I'm going to go ahead and put this on. I'm pretty sure that the fat side was up. I have it on my pillow because at least the pillow is kind of holding that presser bar stationary a little bit. Okay. Almost. Okay, so there I am at the end. And now I'm going to screw this one back in down here. That's the bottom. With my fingers. Obviously, and you know what? Let me get a little bit because that might be easier to hold. Okay, I think that is on pretty tight there. So, yay. Okay, that's how the presser foot goes on. It just kind of slides on there like that. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and tip her up right now. And there we go. Now you can kind of see. I need to get this spring that I just dropped through the top here. Okay, all the way down. I'm just going to set this little finial up here and just barely get it started being threaded, just so I don't, lose it. What do I have now? I need to get this screw here lined up with this hole. And I need to make sure I'm looking at the right side of this thing. Okay, this side of the hole is more flared. You can't see that. If you look through the spring, there's a hole, okay? That hole on this side is more flared than that hole on the other side, which for some reason the camera does not want to focus on, is what it is. So I'm going to line up the more flared side down here, like that. Get the camera out of my way. Get my little set screw here. And see if I can get this in. And that should automatically set my presser foot at the correct height, which is lovely. All right, now over here on this side, this screw is backed out quite a bit. The more you screw it in, the more spread out those two pieces are, and the tighter it'll be in that slot. So as I tighten it in, I want to make sure this is still moving up and down. And it is. I'm going to put some oil in there. Once I turn this finial in more, it'll add more pressure, and that spring will be under force, and it will want to bounce a lot better. So you know what? Let's go ahead and twist that down. I'm going to twist it in, so I have about a little less than 1/2 inch, maybe close to 3/8 of an inch of threads sticking out. And it's still a little sticky, so I'm going to back the screw out a bit and clean up inside that slot just to make sure I don't have, too much paint or something in there. Ooh, well, there it goes. It's great now. Okay. So with that, if I lift this up, unscrew that, will this foot pop in? And yes, it will. I don't actually think I want to put it on right now because I need to do stuff in here possibly. I do have this little thread cutter, and it goes down here, I believe, like this. So that little cutter was sticking out and up like that. So let me get that screwed on. Just realized I screwed this on backwards. So what I thought was the bigger side of that little threaded part is not. So I need to turn this whole thing, just kind of rotate it, because there's 3 holes here, one that goes all the way through and one that's just a single one in the back. Okay, I have this rotated wrong. I want the single one in the back to be the one that I screw this onto, my little thread cutter. So now I need to put this screw back in. I think it would have worked the other way, it's just the thread cutter would not have been in the right position. Okay, I'll put my lifter lever on. I probably could have put this on before, but I did not. So I've got a washer behind it. I'm going to make sure that's out on the shouldered part of the screw. Okay, so with that tight, this still moves. So if I lift this up, everything's good, or this. I have 2 different heights. If you lift your lifter lever over to the outside out here, it's just a little bit of lift for just rotating things. If you really need to get it high, you can do that one. So there you go. That's pretty nifty. I've been putting off doing the tension, and it's because I don't know exactly what I'm doing. If you remember right, I'm going to grab it here, it only had one tension disc, and I had a comment. It was Jo Mercer told me that she had a machine or two that only had one tension disc, which goes right here, and the other, instead of a tension disc, she had a piece of felt. So I'm playing with that idea. I need to get a piece of felt cut, because before I start drilling holes into, you know, another tension disc, which might not even be right, it's easier to cut a piece of felt than to cut a piece of metal. So I think I'm going to do that. Use one of these just as a template to cut a circle of felt, and I'll be right back. So what I'm going to try, I have this, it's more of a commercial grade felt, just ignore the horseshoe outlines. When my husband was a horseshoer, we used these as pads. We cut out pads and use those for horses, but you know, I've got extra here. So I'm going to cut around my little circle and cut it out. It does have an adhesive on one side, which might be good, might not. I'm going to start by not pulling off the little backing paper. And I'll punch a hole in the middle here to punch out that circle. And actually, funny story, if he wasn't a horseshoer, he probably wouldn't be married, because that's how I finally took his phone call, is I needed my horse shoed. And I still have that horse. He's about 30 years old now, but I still have that horse. So there you go. This looks like the biggest circle right here. So let me see if I punch that. Why it's not coming out. I'll punch it one more time. Okay. All right, so I just screwed the post in and push my piece of felt over it. Still having issues getting that circle out of the middle. Hang on a sec. All right, so I've got it on there. Still have the paper backing on, and I had to cut a little piece so that that pin could come through. And the pin's going to go through this part here also. This is the tension release. It doesn't feel like it's going to release very much. I think I may have too much thickness going on here. Okay, so I put a bigger notch there where that pin goes. Put this on. Then I had a little beehive kind of spring here and a nut. You know? Hang on a second. That little post is turning. Hang on a sec. All right, so I'm going to throw a piece of thread in here, and I'm sliding it behind the felt. If I loosen it, it doesn't feel like it's loosening up very much. I may have too much thickness of felt there. And I have this thread guide pushed in too far because I can't get my thread around to the back side of it. So loosen that up and pull this out just a hair, because I need to be able to slide a thread in between the casting and that piece. Okay. So pulling it up and around the thread guide. Well, actually, that does put tension on, and if I tighten this, well, it does increase it. Huh. That could be it. Now my little piece of felt is sticking out just a bit. That's not beautiful. so I might trim it down just a hair. But when I do a test run, I'm going to use it like this and see how it works. Do you know what I forgot to do with all of this? I forgot to put my thread take-up lever on. And I should be able to still get it on there easily, so that's not that big of a deal. So in this side over here, I need to get this piece in. Can't do it from the front on these. I have to kind of wiggle this bearing in. There's a slot in that cog. If I can get that lined up and then just kind of rotate it up so that's going to match up here. Okay, and then I have this very big, very thick mold that's going to go up here and get that cinched up. Good. Okay, make sure it's still moving well. Hang on. Looks good. Looks good to me. It's not wiggling, so we're good. She is just about ready to try out. I have to put her plates on. I have to load her bobbin before I can try her out. So that means I have to put her bobbin winder back together. So let me organize my life here for a minute and I'll be right back. Okay, I just got her shuttle out. I know I'm switching gears again. And she does have this little made in Germany shuttle. But my eternal question for, odd branded sewing machines is, will a Singer 27 bobbin fit? It's slightly smaller, but sometimes they still fit if they're slightly smaller. Will it fit in the tube? Yes. It will fit in the tube. It has enough clearance. As long as it's not too big, so it doesn't bind, it might fit. So, she has this one. I'm going to pull the outside of this thread off, but leave the rest because, that's pretty. And so when I try her out, I'm going to try her with her original bobbin, if I can make this old thread work, and I'm going to try it with a Singer bobbin. So if you see, that Singer bobbin set in pretty far. This is only in a little less than 1/8 of an inch. But the point where it pulls from is down here. So as long as that's in there, it might work. It has before on other machines, so why not now? And if that does work, these are very easy to find. I just bought, a dozen of them off Amazon. They're very easy to find, so that's a good thing. Okay, so I just put the center plate on, which was really tight when I took it off. And it looks like the feed dogs are placed very well, so that's good. The one with all of the numbers and sizes and everything goes in the front. You know what, before I push it, I'm gonna clean out this with a razor blade or an X-Acto knife, just to make sure there's nothing in there. You see that, how I'm pulling a little bit of paint off? It's going to help it slide better without causing any damage. Okay, it's just that paint adds enough. I'm going to put oil on this underside area here, just because it is not painted, so we don't want, any chance of rust or anything on there. Ooh, that's tight. And you see I have a little bit of clear coat popping out that I did not clean out. So I need to pull this up and clean that out just a little bit and then slide it back. Hello, later in the evening here. Back up here, and I'm still working on it. And at first I thought I had the machine all set, and then I put it in the machine, in its box, moved it over to my testing out treadle table, because she's going to eventually get a motor, hopefully, but I wanted to test her out to make sure she worked. I put her in her box, she would not work. I take her out of the box, she works. I put her back in the box, she doesn't work. It turns out there is a little piece that slides front to back that was hitting right there. If you can see that little dimple, that's where it was hitting. So I need to get in there and carve out a little area, just like maybe 1/8 of an inch or so. There, that was a thing. And then here's a close-up look at this shuttle. And it's a tricky one, let me tell you. So just to show you, this goes in here, the thread comes down, and all the way over to this side. Okay, I'm pushing it with my thumb down the slot, and it has to go over the top of this finger over here. Okay, so it's going over that finger and then down and then up through here, this slot. So it goes zigzag all over. Okay, but I kept having my upper thread breaking, and I could not figure out why. So I slid open the little slide plate, and I'm watching it as it sews. It turns out there was a burr on this little screw, and that little burr was catching the thread as it was sliding over and tangling it and popping it off. So just using my little rubber abrasiveness here, and I think I've got it smoothed down. But it's like, if it's not one thing, it's another. And then I just walked up here because, you know, I took a break, as you do sometimes. Came back up. I thought I had turned my camera off. I looked at it, and it was giving all these fatal error messages, which was bad because I haven't transferred any of the images onto my computer yet. So luckily, as you can see, I got it rebooted. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and try that, but just letting you know, this was a culprit, that was a culprit, all these weird little things. Okay, so I am still running into problems, so I decided to do a deep dive. This is the original needle, to try to see if I could find anything like this. Now, if you know, if I place this on my ruler, it is 5 centimeters long, okay? The shank is, just lay it right here, 2 millimeters wide, okay? And the closest right now, put that away, that I can find is an embroidery needle. And that's what this one is, okay? I may have to do the best I can with this one, order a pack of those other needles, and when they come in, just make sure that they're going to work also. I'm thinking that might be the deal, because sometimes the needle is not wanting to stay, the way I have things kind of jimmy rigged in there with that stopper, it's not wanting to stay absolutely straight. It's moving around a little bit, and that space between the toes of that presser foot, it's awful close over here. And so I'm going to go ahead, take my little spacer out, put the original needle in, and see if that helps any. And I did go ahead and pull, here it is, pulled apart again the original shuttle. This is a totally different shape and size than the Singer ones. I tried rummaging in my parts machines over there. I couldn't find one that was, you know, this size and also this shape. Some of the Singer ones, they curved up more, so looks like I am stuck with this, but I do have the thread off of here. So what I need to do is actually put that bobbin winder together so I can wind new thread on the bobbin. I took all the old stuff off here and then just keep working on it. All right, so welcome back to the next day. So I just did a little video on making decals. If you haven't had a chance to take a peek at that, it might answer your questions on how I made the gold decals for this machine. And I had to do a little modification on the box so that the slide plate would move in and out, and the part underneath, which is not typical for other machines that goes like this in and out, that wasn't hitting the box. So I've got it over there because I had to touch up the shellac on a couple of spots. So it's drying. And I also went online to the ISMACS ISMAC's website and downloaded their needle list book and printed the entire thing. It's over 100 pages of very small font lists of every needle for all the sewing machines. And this one was actually on there. So with, that, I didn't really learn anything about a modern needle I could use, but I came back in here and I went through my stash, and I think I found a size that might be close enough to the original. This one here is the original. If I put this up, you can see the eyes of those needles are in the same place, okay? This one here is a 3080 from January 18th, 1910. That's fun. And this one's about the same size. It's also a 3080. So this is just a different sized needle, I believe. This is a thicker needle. I don't actually remember what a size 20 equates to in normal terms, or modern terms, I should say, but that might work. So I just need to step aside from all of that working on the tension stuff and get this bobbin winder put together. This is kind of dirty. Let me clean up my little table here first. Oh, I got a whole new piece out. They're just those pads, those EVA foam pads. I think I got 4 of them in a pack at Aldi at one point. So this little piece here, this actually goes into the machine itself. There's a little hole, so I'm going to go pop this into that little hole in the machine, and I'll be right back for this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I almost did this wrong. This very cool little screw actually sits in here, okay? So that needs to be in there, and I'm going to put a drop of oil behind it. This little groove here. Okay. That should turn, and it is. Okay, so that is good. Now with that in, I need to put this little cam on top of it. Okay. And line up that bottom hole, and I have a very small screw right here that I need to cinch into that bottom hole. All right, so even with this cinched in all the way, this center screw is still turning. Okay, just letting you know there. This, I need to go look at the video taking part, because usually like on a Singer or something, there's a little circular spring that goes on here, and this doesn't have one. And since it doesn't have one, I am probably going to need to remove this paint right here and make sure that that is oiled, because the paint itself can act kind of like a brake sometimes. Let me play with it and see. All right, I'm gonna pop this tire on here. This is, well, maybe pop it on is the wrong word. I'm gonna exert enough force to pull it over. There it goes. Brand new shiny tire. Okay, I actually think that I had latex masking on there because it came off very easily. So I'm gonna put this on here. Okay, and these threads should be meshing with this, and it looks like it is really well, so that's great. Coming back here, I have this little nut. My roosters are very loud, sorry about that. And I need to get that cinched in. Let me get a tiny wrench. Okay. I think everything is moving as it should. This is rotating, it's just extremely slow. But it is rotating. Once I have the follower on, I'll put it onto my little polishing wheel, and that'll spin this really well. That feels a little bit tight. I am not too sure if there's a good way to make an adjustment on here. Because this, I don't believe this is an adjustment screw. Let's see. Ooh, it is. It is. So even though this was very different, it must be very, very slightly eccentric, you know? So I think turning the head on here, it is tightening it up. You can see. Okay, watch. Can you see the whole wheel shift? Chink, like that, off to the side and back. So I just need to find the position of this screw where it needs to be, and then while that screw head stays where it is, so everything works, tighten up the nut on the back. Okay, now if you remember, this end here of this spring was bent, so I'm going to need to bend it again. So first I'm going to stick it in that hole. Okay, I'm not going to bend it until everything is put together here though. This slidey part goes over that center screw. This goes on here, and this should be like that. So there's a hook in the spring so that this will want to follow correctly, I believe. So I am just going to get this screw started up here, just getting those threads started for a moment. Okay. Pull this around here, push that slidey part over that center screw. Make sure the spring is below the top. And go ahead and screw this in. I think I need to push the spring down right there. Okay, so at this point, it does, oops, I did not have it screwed in all the way. Okay. That's the idea, but I need to modify my plan here. Okay, hang on. Pulling it back, stepping that on, and tighten this up. No, please, oh please. That looks better. I think it might be too tight now. You know, I think this screw needs to go in more. Maybe that will do it. Why aren't you going back and forth, little follower? So I think I've got it here. So this is my wheel. It is running. If I hold this here, that looks pretty good to me. And let it break itself in for a moment. I'm going to put some oil on those threads and then put it back onto the machine. Okay, I am over here. This is not her forever case. This is just temporary. But I wanted to show you how, if it was me, I would do the bobbin winder. So first going through this thread guide here, then coming down here, there is a little slot right there, pulling it through. Okay, up here at the top, there's a little fork, pulling the thread through there. I have the bobbin sitting in there. Get about a couple inches of thread sticking out here. I'm pulling the whole thing over here towards the left and sticking that thread in between the end of the bobbin and this piece here. Okay, that's going to kind of hold it. So if it fell out of those guides, put it back in. Now I'm turning this upper crank here, and it has the word loosen, an arrow pointing, turning it away from you. Okay, right to the right. It's a reverse threaded deal. And let me get this pulled up here, take out some of the slack. And it's sitting so far away from the treadle pedals. Oh dear, did you see how far over that went? That took the thread way over the edge. I don't like that. One more little update. Figured it out. So this screw, turning the direction of this screw is this spacing up here in between this and the threads here. But this screw also has some movement over that way. So you adjust the screw so that the screw head is where it needs to be so that these threads aren't going to bind up. But then move it over so that this fork is in the right position up here, okay, and tighten it up in the back. So if you can see, I have it loose in the back, so I have a little bit of play there. That's what I need to do. Push it that way while keeping that screw in the right position. Well, I have had to take it off because when you change the position side to side, it changes how it fits up there, and it's just kind of a mess. So I am down here doing the best I can as usual. So I'm trying to push this whole thing that way. Okay, you see how I'm pushing it with my thumb, so that moves over. And at the same time, while it is pushed over there, finding the position, see that's binding up there, so I know that position is not going to work. Finding one that is going to, still binding right there. Loosen this up. Oh, that's even tighter, it feels like. Okay, so this has that straight up and down, and I am clicking on there, so that's not right. So as you can see, kind of a trial and error type thing, as seems like most of what I do is. Okay, it's working correctly now. Latch for me, will ya? I actually ended up having to get my screwdriver and put it into a clamp so that it would hold its same position. Put the bobbin winder on top, push down really hard, and tighten that nut on the back, because, yeah, that's fun. But now this is going to line up perfectly. So here is another thing. I earlier said that I think that we need some more oil on there, that a Singer-sized bobbin would work in the shuttle. And it might, but this bobbin winder is only set up for doing a longer bobbin than what the Singer is. So if you're going to try that, you're going to need to find a different way to wind your bobbin, okay? So I think that, you know, that's probably good enough on there. I'm not going to wind the whole thing since it's the only bobbin that we have here. And I'm going to change threads, probably put a white thread on top so I can more clearly see what's going on here. Okay, so this right now has her original extra long 5 centimeter long needle in it. And she's sewing well. You know, she's a noisy girl because she's got stuff going all kinds of places down there. But she's doing great. So we know that with her original needle, she does sew. And with, you know, the different modifications and trying to take the burrs and everything off of her shuttle case, that does work. And I found another shuttle in my stash that was close, but it wasn't exact. So I think that her original shuttle is the only one that's going to work. As far as winding bobbins, her original bobbins are the only one that's going to work. And that could be a problem if you want to use this a lot, because you cannot buy those bobbins new. You will have to literally go searching on eBay, on vintage sewing machine parts. Was it Millard, I think? Millard vintage sewing parts or something like that. Might have something, but you're going to have to do kind of a look for it. It's going to be more of an adventure than a shopping experience to find the bobbins for her. But going to show you, and this is using the single piece of red felt, you know, your typical red felt back there as the tensioning system. So if I push this, it loosens the tension just enough that I can pull everything out. So let me go ahead and clip this so you can see. This is the front, okay, and you know, it is a fat needle. It's like at least a 14. It's probably even thicker. So with the black thread on the back, it looks like it's not balanced. It actually is. It feels good, okay. But that is how she is stitching at this point. Okay, so welcome to actually a couple days later. The developments with this machine is we are staying with the original length needle. There is a modern needle that is very close to this one, but it has a round shank, and the owner of this machine said that her husband can work on grinding off one side to make those flat shanked needles so that they will work here. So that's fabulous. The reason that you need a flat one is, say this circle here is the little circle down there in the plate that the needle goes up and down. If it's made for a flat shanked machine so that the needle will go down right in there, right where it should. If it's a round shank machine, the needle's going to be set off this way, and there's a good chance that it could bump in the plate or something else and it just won't sew correctly, okay? So that's why you need to make sure if it's a flat shanked needle that it's specified for, that you stick with that. So with that, what I did is once I got her going well, I put her over onto my universal treadle base and I ran her as fast as I could. Okay, I wanted to see, and you can see there's some trouble spots where, well, maybe not trouble spots, just a little thing here where I was tweaking some things, but I wanted to run her as fast as I could on the treadle, which is pretty fast. I'm a pretty good treadler, because I wanted to see if she could handle the speed of a motor, and she can. So right now I used one of my fabulous motor brackets and some little brass L brackets and got it put on here. This is just an aftermarket motor, but it's white, so it's pretty, and got the little plug mounted down here, down below. So now if I can turn her without tangling her cord, I'm going to put a new little piece of cloth on there so you can see that she does sew. She is slightly noisier than like a rotary hook or a regular oscillating hook because, you know, of the type of bobbin structure that she has and all her moving parts down there. But she does work well. So with a lot of old machines, to get her started, just give the hand wheel a little bit of a turn. And on this one, it does come towards you just to, you know, help her get started. So let me see if I can get this camera up here out of the way of my foot pedal. And oh, hang on a sec. So many things to get out of the way. Okay, here we go. Well, hang on a sec. Okay. If it sounds like I'm revving the engine, it's because I'm trying to go slow. Not very successful. That actually is a balanced stitch. I have white on my bobbin, black on my thread, so I can see what is going on here. I'm gonna try to shorten that stitch length a bit. Now, if I don't rev the engine high, if I try to go nice and low, she will still sew, and I think that she'll sew more peacefully. And I've got big shoes on, so it's a matter of getting used to the foot pedal. But if you can see, when I put my foot nice and lightly, she will still sew, and she'll sew at a slower, more controlled pace or faster. Now there is no reverse on this machine, so if you need to back tack just while the needle is up, lift it up, move everything forward a bit, drop it back down, and then just go over that spot again. So lifting up the presser foot, going over, lifting this little knob over here raises it up higher than if you lift it over there. That's more for just turning a corner. This is for pulling it out. This little thumb part here, if I push that in, I do have the felt back there, so you know, it's not a super hardy mechanism right there, but it does work really well, so I'm impressed with that felt. But there you go. I hope you can see she does sew. She's got her motor on, and I think that she is ready to go and be shown off, so I'm very excited to get her back to our owner. Thank you so much for coming along with me on the journey of this girl. I'm going to get her cleaned up, give her a glamour shot, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.